Welcome to tonight's meeting. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis,
Here.
Vice Chair Milliken, Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty here.
Secretary Hatcher,
Here.
Trustee Fleming, Trustee McKnight Morton,
Here.
Trustee Milstein.
Here.
Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor? Excuse me, tab A is the approval of the minutes. The recommendation of Board of Trustees approve the minutes of September 26, 2023 monthly meeting as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
President Blanca?
Yes, Madam Chair and Board of Trustees, I'd like to just make a quick introduction of some new hirees before we begin this meeting. These are key positions that we've discussed, and we have the opportunity to see them here. So it will just take a minute, and this would be a great time for that. This has been a very busy month and a busy time. I'd first like to introduce Dr. Ann Nichols. Could you stand, please? Maybe you want to come up closer, they could see you. Dr. Ann Nichols is our new Dean of Humanities, Social and Behavioral Studies, Sciences. Dr. Nichols comes to us from Rochester University, where she most recently served as Vice Provost and Dean for the College of Arts and Sciences. She earned her bachelor's degree in English from Rochester University and her master's degree and PhD in English from Wayne State University. Welcome. Now I'd like to officially welcome someone from our family, someone who's a faculty member who was good enough to step up and be an interim dean last year, and we are so pleased that she applied for the position. So I'd like to formally welcome Dr. Tracy Schwab as the Dean of, come up closer, the Dean, I know they know you, but the Dean of Math, Science, and Engineering Technology, a role that she has held as an interim since August of 2022. Prior to that, she served as WCC Faculty and Department Chair of Chemistry. She also completed 2 postdoctoral fellowships at the University of Michigan before coming to WCC. She earned her bachelor's degree in chemistry from Walsh University and completed graduate studies from the University of Akron and Wayne State University. Thank you so much. Another one of our great employees that has been recently promoted is Shayna Barker. Shayna, could you come forward, please? So they can see you. I know. Shayna, as you know, has worked tirelessly in the WCC Foundation in managing scholarships and increasing emergency funds to support our students' education and success. She has been promoted to Senior Director of Advancement. She's a remarkable leader. She has 17 years of work experience at the college. She's a WCC graduate herself. She earned both her bachelor's degree in secondary education and teaching and her master's degree in college student counseling and personnel services from Eastern Michigan University. Congratulations, Shayna. And another person who is definitely not a stranger, Pete Leskovich. He's always come up with new surprises for us, and I am really pleased to announce that Pete Leskovich, our former Director of Student Development and Activities, was recently hired as our new Dean of Enrollment Management and Student Experience. In this new position, Pete oversees enrollment services, student recruitment and outreach, student development and activities, and admissions. Pete considers his career journey a testament to the transformative power of WCC. Starting as a GED student at WCC, he went on to graduate with an associate's degree from WCC before earning his bachelor's and master's degrees in business administration from Cleary University. Thank you, Pete, and for taking on a job that, oh my God, it's like really a tough one nowadays in higher ed. Thank you so much. Thank you. I committed to the board last week. I don't know if I did this publicly or that we would work to get all the positions filled by this meeting. And we were fortunate that Judy, and I'm sorry I don't remember her last name.
McGovern.
McGovern? Oh, okay. Judy McGovern. Is that somewhere that you're reading this? Judy McGovern,
We know.
our voice sponsor, I don't know if I'm saying it right, director, has agreed to stay on for a few more months. So with that, we are going to continue the search, but we're happy to have Judy join us again because she was outstanding. So thank you, Judy, wherever you are. Thank you, board, for hearing this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Vanessa, sorry, jumping ahead. Are there any verbal communications?
Well, no, written. Could be
Not written?
covered.
Oh, WCC. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna do over. Miss Julie Kissel, WCC Education Association. Thank you so much.
Well, it is October 2023. So since my remarks last month, it seems as if time has moved too quickly and too slowly all at the same time. Each day I find myself, like many of my colleagues and our students, struggling to understand the atrocities in Israel and Gaza. We wonder how many more innocent lives will be lost and how we can make sure that those in our local communities feel supported and safe. I know I can trust in my colleagues to support one another and offer refuge for those feeling so unmoored by the increasing unrest, destruction, and death as the conflict unfolds. In times like these, many of us turn to work for a time of respite. However, the past 4 weeks of the term have proved just as stressful as the first four weeks of the term. One way to think about the current stress is to look at the past. I have been at WCC for 20 years. In my time as faculty in the HSS division, I have experienced 9 VPI changes and 16 changes. As part of the WCCEA leadership over the last 10 years, there have been 6 VPI changes, at least 12 dean changes, 5 leadership changes in HR, and a variety of new supervisors and directors across campus. This means that about every 14 to 18 months, I have to manage another shift or change in leadership for better or for worse. Now, I do appreciate the recent conversations with VPI Tucker and President Belanca when they ask how the membership is doing. That is always a fair and good question. There's another question in return, though. The question from many of my colleagues is what has been learned so that these massive shifts in leadership do not happen as often? Or when they happen, how can we better cope with the changes? Change, we know, is inevitable, but surely there's a way forward that we manage these changes better. So in the meantime, the WCCA keeps doing what we can to support our membership. This week, I anticipate the WCCA board will vote to move our only grievance to arbitration. At last check, there is a wait for arbitration of about 6 months. This will certainly be enough time to collaborate on a resolution, and that is our hope. The WCCA also continues its efforts to understand and support initiatives on campus. The list, of course, is long, and there are many moments when we wonder who might have an answer or lead on a particular issue. So I'll reiterate what I said in my closing remarks last month. For me, the loss of so many years of institutional knowledge through the early retirements or unplanned departures, the continued stress of the post-COVID changes, and the lack of consistent, clear, and connected leadership across campus continues to put WCC in jeopardy of living up to its mission to its students, community, and employees. We can and must do better. Now, I had other things to share this evening, which I will skip, but I do find myself frustrated, angry, disappointed. So because of that, I'm just going to go ahead and recuse myself for the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Are there any public comments? Hearing none. Vanessa, are there written communications? Okay, thank you. Moving on to special reports. Annual grants update by VP Tucker.
Good evening. As we always do, we come to the board with our annual update on our grant activity for the past fiscal year. It's important to note these grants were from July 1 of 2022 through June 30th of 2023. For our short time together, we're going to provide you some grant stats to kind of compare how we've done over the last couple years, to remind the board of our process for how we go after grants, look at our new and existing grants we've acquired over this year, and then have some impact presentations on things that we have been able to achieve because of this outside funding, and then to talk about a really exciting opportunity that we have on the horizon. For fiscal year 23, we were awarded a total of approximately $13 million in grants, and this is an increase of a little over $7.5 million from last fiscal year. But as you notice on the chart, we've been kind of pretty steady for fiscal year 21 and 22, and this year was a significant increase, which we'll discuss, and that we've supported 62 positions. We know the board always wants to know what that number is. That's a combination of part-time positions, faculty positions, as well as some full-time positions as well. This is a very colorful flowchart of how we go after grants, but it's simply that we've tried to expand our outreach to faculty and staff to educate them on how opportunities might be presented, but to understand what their goals and visions that are aligned with the strategic priorities of the college, so that we don't have to have a grant announcement and then go run and put together a proposal, but that we have a running list of, as opportunities might come from a funding perspective, that we have really some already kind of shovel-ready projects that we can put in play. Both faculty and staff are engaged every semester, and as they work through their deans and their vice presidents, we then have a grant committee that signs off on those applications that generally happen every few months in terms of submitting applications. As we look at what happened over the last year, we wanted to kind of provide an overview. As I mentioned, $8.1 million was awarded in new grants. That is up from $656,000 last year. So we had some significant investments, as you see in the millions. Our Detroit Drives Degrees Community College Collaborative D3C3. Our scholarships in STEM, which is a partnership across the state with a number of four-year institutions, Michigan State, Michigan, for $1.3 million. And then our earmark, our congressional earmark, which is affectionately called as the Southeast Michigan Mobility Power Project, is $2.5 million. Some of these are going to be renewable each year, so you will see these presented in future years to come. And some are one-time funding. So when we look at the Future for Frontliners, Wrap Around, Reconnect funding, the Human Service Bridge funding through Washtenaw County, those are either 1 year or 2 year awards, when our larger grants are going to be between 3 and 5 year awards. As we look at existing grants, those are grants that might have been awarded last year or in the previous years, but are renewed annually. That number is $4.9 million, just under $5 million. And you'll notice those are traditional things like Perkins that we received from the state. That saw a significant increase of about 10 to 11% from last year. Our LSAT program, which partners with our STEM scholars in ensuring that we can have diversity in the sciences. And then, of course, our adult basic education. So what Director Truen and her team does each and every day to ensure not only our GED, but even some of our ESL students are supported. When we talk about the impact of grants, we say that we have over $8 million in new awards this year, a little under $5 million in existing awards. We wanted to provide the board at least 4 snapshots of how these grants come to life. When we look at our Community Priority Fund, When we remember the HBCU day that was funded, nearly 400 students from across a number of school districts were on campus, primarily 9th through 11th grade. That was funded through our Community Priority Fund. So those are ARA dollars that were awarded to the college over 2 years to specifically fund not only a HBCU day, but a HBCU tour that will happen in March, as well as standing up some soft skills and career acceleration programming at both Park Ridge and our new Ellsworth Center. When we think about our FAME program, which we've brought to the board, being the first educational institution in the state, we were able to braid that funding with the Apprenticeships Building America funds, which was awarded through WIN, Workforce Intelligence Network. So this actually allows us to grow the number of apprentices because we now have a full-time resource that's outside funded, that's able to go to businesses and talk about the importance of apprenticeships, and that apprenticeships are not just in manufacturing, but now that we're seeing apprenticeships in IT, we're seeing it in manufacturing, of course, but also in healthcare. As we look at our EV jobs, which was also another partnership with WIN, that has allowed for training for faculty. We have actually faculty that were just out last week and will be back out in training in December to really upgrade their skills so that they can go feet first into electric vehicles, but then also looking at batteries. So this funding specifically is to provide professional development for faculty as we start to launch our new EV charging station, installation and maintenance program, our maintenance and EV battery technician program, and then our semiconductor short-term technician program. So our faculty are being trained in all those areas, and this funding allowed for this full support of that training. As we look at Alpha Scholars, that's our Title III grant. We know that we've been awarded this a number of years ago. This was a very hands-on, cohort-based funding that allowed for us to have a cohort that really targeted students as they came to the college to make sure that they were successful. So as of fall 22, over the last year, 183 students within this cohort received targeted support from academic advisors, success coaches, but then also they're building a community amongst themselves. So they know that they can lean into advisors and lean into success coaches and lean into their faculty members, but also that they can lean into each other to ensure they're going to be successful. We know that the fall 21 cohort, 42% of that cohort has already earned a degree or certificate within 2 years. Some, of course, are in the program and are still continuing, but we're seeing significant success with the extra support they're receiving. We talked about.
What was the amount of people, how many students were in this cohort?
I can get you the fall 21 numbers. I know that fall 22 we had 183, and each year we've grown to get more. So I would know it's a little over 100, but I can get you that exact number.
And one more question.
Yep.
How are they identified to go into this program?
So when they come to the college, they are provided an opportunity to join this cohort. And, it's fully advertised. We make sure that every student is aware of it, and individuals sign up, and then they're paired, of course, with academic advisors and success coaches, and they build community activities. So it's not like they just come to the college and now you're assigned an academic advisor and a success coach, but you're also, you have programming in which you come together, which we have found that, they want to lean into their faculty, they want to lean into their advisor, but they also have friends that they can have to support them along the way.
I wish I had that.
Thank you very much. Trustee Hatcher?
So 42% of the fall 21 have finished, and I guess I need to compare that with our other student body to see if there's a difference. And so at some point, not tonight perhaps, I'd like a report on Alpha Scholars and compare them to what's the percentage of fall 2021 non-alpha scholars? You see what I mean?
Yep,
That have earned a degree in 2 years.
can definitely get you that.
Other than that, if I don't have that, I don't know if this is making a difference or not.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Trustee DeVarty?
So of these Alpha Scholars, are they all full-time students?
Yes. I'm going to defer to VP Jennings, Provost Blakey. This is their program, so.
Yes, they are all full-time, first-time in any college students. So
First time in any college?
yes,
First time in their family or first time for them individually?
first time for them. They could also be first generation students as well.
Okay, thank you.
So our Youth in Transition program, our REACH program, this is targeted to individuals who have aged out of foster care, and they have a dedicated success coach, financial assistance, housing assistance, and mentorship, at least triaging them to those support programs. We know over the last fiscal year, 29 students participated in the program, with 6 actually completing their degrees and certificate within that time frame. Others are still enrolled and still pursuing both that degree and that certificate. And over the last year, 3 REACH students successfully transferred to the University of Michigan, and 2 transferred to Western Michigan. This is much like our Alpha Scholars program. We wrap our hands around those students and want to ensure that they are successful. One opportunity that's on the horizon is that we currently have a proposal in with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, affectionately known as LEO. They have provided $52 million across the state. Each community college that applies has the ability to get $2 million, with the express goal of increasing the number of bachelor's prepared nurses in the state. So what this program will provide, the funding, it would come to the college. We would partner with Eastern Michigan University, and that they would have scholarship opportunities both here and scholarship opportunities both also at the Eastern Michigan University, and that we would have a strategic partnership with Trinity Health as well as Michigan Medicine to ensure that they have a clinical placement and then hopefully a job at the end. But the goal of this program is to reduce the amount of debt incurred. So in many cases, an individual could come to WCC, get their tuition paid for, transfer to Eastern Michigan, also get their tuition paid for, and be in position for a full-time opportunity at Trinity or Michigan Medicine at the end. And a lot of course, other support along the way. So we will know about this probably in the next month or so. But that proposal has been in, and we're awaiting a favorable response from the state.
So the $2 million would be to the WCC for when the students are here. But if they're on a 4-year track in partnership with EMU, is there additional funding that EMU gets?
Part of that
To continue that scholarship, or does that come from our $2 million?
that comes from the $2 million. Yep. So
So
part
the
of
two-
that is the scholarship here and the scholarship there.
Okay. And then that's supplemental to any other scholarship funds they would potentially be able to bring in?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any questions?
So $8 million is an impressive amount, but it comes with a lot of work as well. So how are grants managed here at WCC, knowing that lots of these grants come with strings?
Yep.
So how is the management of the grants being handled, and how has that changed since the number is so much higher than in previous year?
Absolutely. So over.
Excuse me, if I may add
Sure.
also to your question, could you also talk about the philosophy of grants?
Absolutely.
at
So
our
I'll start
college?
with that one because that's the easier. So our philosophy with grants is that we would never go after a grant that we wouldn't already be doing the work. So all the dollars that we see is supplemental to either strategic priorities that we've already had at the college that we've jump started already, and grant funding just allows us to amplify the work that we've already started. In terms of kind of grants management, over the last probably 5 or 6 years, we've built out a robust structure both in finance as well as on the programmatic side to ensure success, knowing that we would have additional dollars continue to grow. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank, Kieran Parker from our finance team, Lynn Grace, who I believe is here tonight, and we have a new grants director, Julia, along with the entire grants team, because from the finance side, they've got a structure that supports it from compliance. And then Julia works with all of those project or program directors to ensure that they're successful with delivering on what we said we're going to do. So we have increased our capacity over the last 5 years, knowing this was coming. And I think it's important to note in the last 10 years, we've grown significantly in the double digits in terms of millions in grants, comparatively speaking, from what we used to do. And a lot of that has been because we're more aware, we're more in tune with the funding opportunities, and I think that we've done a good job at building the structure and the training internally on how to deliver on that grant. So when we think about STEM scholars, for example, with Susan Dentel, who's an amazing faculty, we want Susan to be able to teach and to guide and to train and not have to worry about all the administrative paperwork. So we've created a structure that supports her, that she knows what she needs, so that she can do what she does best, and that's train those future STEM-related minds in the classroom.
Right. And then knowing the staff that we have built out and the team that we've built out, do we return any of the grant money? Is that something that ever happens?
Our goal is to never give it back. Does that happen
Great goal.
sometimes? Absolutely. Just with potential spending and, some of the realities that we know in terms of like equipment, for example. So, a prime example is at Perkins, which is allocated every year. If we put in a piece of equipment and we can't get the equipment here, which has happened, we either have to try to repurpose those dollars and find something else, or we may have to have, some give back. We try not to do that though. And we're really good at negotiating with our funders for extensions, no cost, that allow for us to keep that money and be able to spend it.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Management System Executive Director Snoop Schuler.
All right. Good evening. How is everyone?
Good.
Good. Thank you all for letting me present to you today. So I am presenting a special report. Yes.
Talking to the microphone is not
Sorry.
possible.
Yes.
Or bring the microphone up if possible.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
No problem. So I am here to provide an update on the Learning Management System evaluation. You'll be hearing a recommendation for the system later on in the agenda, but I wanted to provide some context around the decision and the process that we went through to evaluate this, since it's slightly different than some of the things that might have been done in the past. So to start, I wanted to walk you through and remind you why we were looking at a new system. So since one of the strategic priorities is to increase and advance online learning here at the college, and our current system, our contract was coming up with them next summer, and the system, the version that we use right now, is going to be sunset by the company. We would have seen changes to the interface as soon as August of next year, with the guarantee to move into a new platform with its own migration if we had stayed. So we thought it might be the best time to look at what we need, how the system is supporting us now, what we need in the future, and what other options might be available. So some of the things that were really driving what we were looking for was our ability to improve the digital learning experience. We want to make sure that the students have the best possible learning experience here at the college so that we can continue to offer high quality education. We're also looking for opportunities for our system to help us support advancements in online instruction. So this allows the faculty members to have opportunities to streamline things that they work on, to focus more on the students, more on learning new ways to teach that might elevate the way in which students succeed. Another really important driver for us was the ability for this to work on mobile. So our current platform doesn't work wonderfully on a mobile device. And this is important because the students use this for a variety of different things. They communicate with instructors, they check their grades, they're able to see when assignments are due, they can look at feedback that they get on assignments, and some of them complete assignments fully on their phone. So we're really looking for a system that has a compatible app that is similar to what students might use on their phones and allows them to have that experience with their academics. Another thing that we were looking for that really partners with some of the other strategic priorities was a really strong and accessible data and reporting structure so that we can really understand what's happening in our system and how we can better leverage it to support faculty and student needs. The last thing we were looking for was a modern and intuitive interface, so something that looks more friendly, is easy to understand, easy to navigate, easy for students to adopt and learn. And so when we're thinking about the learning management system, if some of you are unfamiliar or possibly haven't taken an online class before, this is the system that the students go to review all of their content from faculty, whether that's lectures, videos, readings. They perform all of their assessments in this space. They communicate with instructors, check their grades, see announcements from the college that are pertaining to their learning. All of that happens in this system. And the reason that this transition is so important is it doesn't just impact faculty who teach fully online. We have faculty here who teach in a blended environment, who teach in a virtual environment, and then we also have people who teach in the classrooms but use the system to supplement instructions, to update grades, to provide students with information as they progress through the course. And students having access to that in real time helps them navigate that experience. So we did something a little bit different with our process here, and I want to just walk you through what we did so you can understand how we gathered the information that's going to lead to the recommendation. So in typical fashion, we did work with the purchasing office to put together an evaluation committee that had representation from the president's office, human resources, IT, faculty, deans. Then we used the UA, non-credit, myself and my team, and we also had a student representative who spoke on behalf of the students. And so we put together a list of specifications of what we currently use the system for and what we're hoping it will do in the future. That resulted in 4 vendors, 3 of which were chosen to do virtual presentations for everyone here in the community. So those were Canvas, Blackboard, which is what we use right now, and D2L. Each one of these vendors had a couple-hour demonstration the second week of June. So once we found out we were going to bring these 3 vendors in, we did communicate with the community through the water cooler, the Washtenaw Weekly, and emails to let them know that these vendors were going to be presenting. And as soon as we had the timeline and the modality, we would provide that information, which was given to the same modalities and outlets on June 7th, as well as a direct email to the faculty with the time and the location, or the Zoom links to participate. We also created a survey. So for anyone who showed up to the presentations, they could provide feedback for us to let us know what they thought of the systems, if it met their needs, if they had additional questions. They also were able to ask questions of the vendors themselves. Now, since this did happen in the summer and it happened at specific times on specific days, we didn't want people who were unable to come to those to not be able to participate. So we were able to get recordings from all of the vendors, and we posted those and reminded people to watch those and provide information on the surveys. An email went out on June 20th and June 27th to remind anyone who wanted to be involved but maybe just couldn't on those specific times to go ahead and provide that information to us. In addition, we also had a focus group of students who watched all 3 of the recordings and provided both quantitative and qualitative feedback, very detailed information about how they felt about the system that they currently use and which system they felt might be the best one for them moving forward. And I'll provide you with some of that data in a moment. So when we give the recommendation today, it's a compilation of the evaluation committee that was put together to do the extensive evaluation, the faculty, students, and staff surveys, participation, and focus groups that we used. All 3 of those different forms of data collection all led to the same outcome, which is the one that you'll get to hear tonight. Another thing I wanted to point out is that we created a learning management system webpage. And so we put on there the process that we were going through, who the committee members were, where we were in the process, and as each task was completed, as you can see on the left, we put complete, starting all the way with the evaluation committee and then all the way to the recommendation that we're making for you tonight. We also, as you can see on the right, gave the information on where they could attend the recordings, where they could access them, how to locate the survey, just so that there was a way for people to track this in real time and feel like they were always aware of what was going on. We're also going to use the same website to detail the migration, implementation, and training process so that everyone's aware of where we are in that process, what's on the horizon, and when and where it impacts them directly so that they have that information to plan for their semesters. So the first thing I'm going to present for you is the results of the actual committee, the one we put together to do the extensive evaluation. You do have a copy of the purchasing report somewhere in your file, so if you'd like to follow along, feel free. I summarized it here for you on the presentation. On the left side, you can see what we were scoping. So we started with the most important, which was teaching and learning, its capacity to provide those for faculty and students. We also looked at its ability to integrate with current technologies so that those processes still operate the same way and they're seamless. We looked at data and reporting. We had an entire section on ADA compliance. A lot of the stuff in the middle there is really about the operational processes that we have to go through and that my team does to make sure that everything works for the faculty and students every time we have a new term. And then we also worked with them on their faculty development, customer service, how they partner with us to provide what's necessary for the migration to be successful, as well as company history, references, and pricing. And so you can see from the information here that the one that's 3 over is Blackboard. That's the one that we currently have, who did present to us. Their total for the committee was 7.56 out of a total possible 10, which would have been perfect on everything. D2L came in at a 7.38. A lot of people were impressed with the system, but didn't really want to make that transition. And then Canvas, which will be the recommendation that you'll hear, came in at 8.22 out of a 10. So these are the results of the actual evaluation committee and what was given to you today from the purchasing department. However, as I mentioned, we had 2 other data sources, so I'd like to review those with you as well. So from the faculty and student perspective, we asked a couple different questions to make it easy but also useful. And so there were quantitative and qualitative metrics, which was really unique to see people's specific feedback. We asked about the satisfaction after they were reviewing the learning management system, how they felt about its capability to do its job. We asked them about how they thought it was able to improve the student experience based on the things that they had experienced when they were teaching or taking a class. We asked about ease of use, compatibility with mobile, and then specifically for faculty, we asked about the analytic capabilities. The students don't usually pull or look at those. So we found that faculty rated Canvas the highest on all the metrics, except for the analytics, which they favored Brightspace since it was easier to see in the demo. And then students favored Canvas on all the metrics, tying only with Blackboard on the ease, which they contributed to some familiarity. They had already used a platform, and so they saw some of those commonalities with the new version of Blackboard that would be coming out. So we saw that same thing. Just to give you some idea of where the recommendation is coming from and what the students felt, I did pull some qualitative quotes from the students so that you could see what they thought was most important when they were reviewing these systems. The first one, which I think is a great observation, occurred from multiple different students, including our representative, is that Canvas is the main learning management system to the 2 main transfer institutions, both U of M and EMU. And so the students had mentioned how it would be easier to not come here, learn a learning management system, and then relearn a new one when they transferred into their main destinations. So having that continuous, seamless experience for them was something that was important. There were other quotes here that talked about how user-friendly it is, how it's mobilely accessible. Many of them like the personalized nature of Canvas. You can personalize your screen and your settings to show what's useful and important to you. You can color code things so that it shows up in a way that makes it what you need it to be. And so you have that personalized experience. One of the students was really excited about the mobile app because it showed them upcoming tasks, due dates, and they were able to contact their instructors directly. And then in that last quote, you can see the student had mentioned that the way in which faculty members can mark up and comment on assignments creates a more personalized experience. And they actually have the ability to comment back and forth in the assignment area to continuously work on improving things that they may be missing. So that exchange is really important for the students. So these were just some of the quotes, but I thought they encompassed some of the things that were important to the students that led them to their decision and their outcome. So with all of that, our recommendation tonight, which you'll hear later on in the agenda from VP Barnes, is to move to Canvas. For a variety of different reasons, it has an intuitive interface that is familiar to students. It leverages a familiar web navigation. So it's similar to things they use every day and the ways in which they consume media. So we're giving them that additional opportunity to use academics. It's also compatible with a ton of educational tools. So it gives us more opportunities to integrate new and exciting things to leverage our learning and to enhance it. It has a 99% annual uptime, which is really wonderful because then the students don't have downtimes with the system. They can really access it whenever they need to. And for the most part, it's up and running just fine. The integrated mobile app was really one of the biggest sellers. Students were really excited about that. It allows faculty to monitor things in real time. And if students can access what they need whenever they want, wherever they want, it really does give them that opportunity for diverse learning. It's used by the transfer schools, so it doesn't give them it gives them an opportunity to transfer in easily and doesn't make us a learning curve for them. It's personalized, easy to navigate and use. There was strong and easy data analytics that we could pull from there, which I'm hopeful we can use to really give data-driven outcomes and decisions. We did have it reviewed by our Chief Information Security Officer, who said that the security features were superior to the other two systems, which is incredibly important. We want to make sure that all of our data and student information is safe and secure and taken care of. And so we believe it will be the best system for the college to continue to offer high quality, accessible online education. So as I mentioned, you will hear the actual recommendation from VP Barnes, but I'd love to hear any thoughts, questions, concerns, comments that you have that I could answer for you.
Trustee Hatcher?
Mhm.
Pull your microphone.
Yeah. Second only to the phone calls I get and emails I get about the leadership at the college
Mhm.
are questions about this transition.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody, at least I haven't heard any comments, and I hear from faculty because I was.
Sure.
I don't think anybody has criticism of going to Canvas,
Yes. Correct.
but the transition is really problematic for a lot of people. There are some questions about this system doesn't allow blogs, it doesn't allow wikis, and I don't know if there's any compensation for that in another mode that you could offer. But releasing faculty from the 16 hours of professional development, which means we won't be talking about inclusion and diversity next year, but you know, it's another year for that.
Sure.
Probably isn't enough. And so there's a lot of worry
Sure.
and concern and thought that the people implementing this don't understand what the teaching is. So if you could address that in your work, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Change, I mean, I hate change. I just moved. I hate it. And I think that's part of the problem as well. But I think these are serious concerns about teaching and learning that these people have. And I hope you can address them.
Sure, I absolutely appreciate that. I would defer any compensation questions to VPI Tucker, but we do have a very comprehensive plan. And so with the change in leadership, I will be running that by him as well to make sure it's still the course that we're going. And I really do believe it will offer significant training and the ability for everyone to be a part of the process in the way that works best for them. Because we hear a variety of different concerns. We want to make sure there's opportunities for each level of comfort that the faculty do or don't have as we move through this process. But I appreciate you letting me know that. Thank you.
I just want to update everybody. Chair Davis had to leave, so she asked me if I would step in and take over as chair. Our vice chair is away, so I'm stepping in temporarily as chair, and I'll continue through the agenda and recognizing fellow trustees. Trustee McKnight Morton.
Thank you. I lost my train of thought. How soon is this to be implemented, or is it being implemented right now?
No, it is not being implemented right now because this is the recommendation phase. We have put into place a full year for this migration to take place. We don't anticipate faculty being teaching in the new system until the winter of 25, so that we have a substantial amount of time to set up the system, provide the necessary training, involve them in the way that they need to, move their courses over, get them set up so that they're teaching ready, and then provide more training so that everyone has what they need.
And this is in the year you're talking about, in 1 year.
Yes,
have it
we'll,
together.
we'll be starting the training in January of 24 with the intention to go live following winter term in 25.
Okay. Now, my other question, is there cost to this?
Yes, the cost will be in the recommendation that BP Barnes will give you in a few minutes on the agenda.
okay.
Yep, we'll
All right. definitely
definitely cover that piece.
Okay, I thought I heard you
Yep.
say that.
Yes,
Okay.
no problem.
Are there any other questions? Alex?
So I was a little surprised by the implementation timeline for starting it January of 25. And the reason 25.
To start the
starting
courses.
training 24, but starting use of it full time January of 25.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So the reason I was concerned about it was because what we're sort of going to be in the middle of the school year. And the training, typically, you'd want to give faculty enough time to be up and running. And so they're going to be teaching during the fall semester. And I know we're going to be providing training during that period of time. But wouldn't it make sense to start fall of 25 versus the winter semester of 25 so that they have the summer to, because, based on the Q&A I read, it's not going to be just all set up for them and they just go up and running other than a new system. So I was a little surprised by that timeline. Do you have any comments on that as to why that was the date that was chosen or why that was the semester was chosen?
Yes, we initially, so we wanted to make sure that we had a full year. And so we had to take into consideration a variety of different factors. So some of which is my team learning the system and then migrating the courses over. And so we do have a substantial amount of work that we're going to do so that the work for the faculty is limited and it's not something that is a burden to them. But at the same time, we are aware that over the summer, faculty are not usually available. And so the one thing we didn't want to do was try to have a substantial amount of expectations from them towards the beginning of a term, the end of a term, a holiday, or the summer. So that was where our thoughts were right now. But with the change in leadership, we are having some conversations about that, as well as the waiving of the professional development to make sure it's the right decision.
Okay, thank you.
But I appreciate your thought.
Are there other questions? Oh, are you ready to, Angela, are you ready to step back in? Thank you very much for allowing me to step in for a minute.
Have fun,
Sure.
Dave. Was it fun?
You did a great.
Okay.
Additional questions or further discussion?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
I have
Trustee DeVarty?
one question as a follow-up to Trustee Milstein. So the transition, so we're talking about having it implemented in winter of 2025. Would there be full implementation and we would not be using Blackboard anymore? It would be fully,
Right.
if,
That's
if
the
we
plan.
approve the transition later in the agenda?
Correct.
So it just fully implements in January of 2025?
Yes, so we will be doing a lot of migrating training, working with developing in the new system, but for the students, we didn't want to have coinciding experiences, so they don't have one course in Blackboard, one course in Canvas, even though it might, so we really wanted it to be a really hard stop and changeover with all the prep necessary to make that successful.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, Patrick. Okay.
I just want to emphasize when you talk about if I were a teacher, God forbid, and you were what did you call it? Transitioning my course. You better be careful. It's my course, and I know there's a lot of anxiety around that issue as well.
Sure, absolutely.
With regards to the transition, so January of 2025, is Blackboard 100% over with at that point, or are we leaving it up and running for faculty, not to teach, but to have access to in case they need to figure out if everything's been migrated over? So is it a cut on January 2025, or will there be some grace period for faculty to have access to Blackboard?
I anticipate there will be a grace period because I think we'll have to do a 1-year renewal with them, so it should be available until June of
Okay.
that following year so that there is no concerns. We also have a archiving process that we're doing so that all of their information, data, reports, and courses are available to them, and we can help them with those changes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
Sounds like you've got everything worked out.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. Sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
To the trustees, I'm a teacher too, and I understand, I respect your concerns because I would share the same ones. And we have changed this timeline from a shorter one to a longer one to address those concerns. And there are, what makes me feel more comfortable is that there are other colleges that have gone through this transition and we can learn from them and see, I don't blame the faculty for being nervous. I'd be nervous. I'm nervous. Just as a president, I don't blame them for feeling the way they do. This is going into unknown. For us, it's not, something we do. But we're going to be very careful and do our very best to work with the faculty and provide them with the assistance that they need and listen. I mean, and because you're right, it's their course and it's and they teach it, and it's so. I just want you to it is not falling on deaf ears, and none of us feel we all feel that way, which is why we did extend it. I'm glad to hear about the grace period that we might be able to have. I can certainly understand. That was a good question about January, and why January. So, you know, even though we're moving forward, your questions are really valid. I just want you to know that. And not falling on deaf ears. It's not like we have a process and we're not going to listen. Yes.
Just an idea, if there are other schools that have gone through this, would it be a good idea to bring some of their faculty and staff to talk to our faculty and staff and say how it went
Yep.
with them?
Sure.
That would be some credibility in terms of having gone through the process. Might help.
Sure. Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank you
much.
very much.
So we're moving on to monthly reports for tab B. Tab B is a recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel recommendations as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Trustee DeVarty?
First of all, I want to thank all the people that for their service, people that are leaving, and congratulate the new hires. But I do have a question as I was looking at this and with the introduction of Shayna Barker, who I think has been a tremendous staff person who I've worked with at the foundation. So I don't see her on here as a new hire or a new position, but she was introduced as a new position. I see Tina Casoli, who was leading the foundation, as leaving. Is Shayna replacing her? Is that a one-for-one replacement, or what's the?
No, that's a very good question. Shayna will not be the director, the chief. She will not be the assistant associate vice president for. We're posting that position, and to update the board, although Shayna's outstanding, she can apply for it if she'd like. To update the board today, Vanessa and I met with Bhushan Kulkarni and with I think it was Patty, and we reviewed the whole process. We updated the job description. The job description's already posted. We have a group, Chuck Hammond and Associates, that is going to meet with the staff tomorrow in the office to just see where we're at in terms of all the staff, all the progress that we're doing. We do have a list of the activities so that Shayna can ensure that they'll be going on, and Shayna's on top of all of it. Because we want to make sure that our donors and all the, we have Giving Tuesday. Is it Giving Tuesday, Shayna? We have a scholarship lunch, and we have things we have to keep moving.
Right.
And those are the things that Shayna will be doing. Now, that posting that you're referring to, it is on our website right now. And we're going to see what kind of response we get to the position. And if we get a good response, then we won't go with a search firm. If we don't get a good response, then we might have to use a search firm. Now, what happens in foundation positions, I know this is more than what you wanted to know, but they only usually stay in a job for 5 years because it's really quick turnover. Because once they raise money, they can't go back to the well. So they have to find a new well. So they always leave, and someone else comes in, and it's just how it works. So we're in that process right now. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Thank you.
Can I ask if
Yes.
we're in a search process for the major gifts director?
Are we? No,
Yeah.
because what we are going to do is wait until we hire the new, oh, by the way, we changed the title, the new Chief Philanthropy Officer. Now, we might have to go back. Well, I'll tell you why we had to change the title. Everyone wants to come with titles. So, I called these search firms, and they're saying, well, you have to make it a vice president. Some are saying you have to make it the president of the foundation. And, ours has to fit within our structure. So we were trying to get creative. And we thought, hey, we'll make it Chief Philanthropy Officer, and we'll see what happens. And yeah, okay. So now you know how these charts get the way they are. And, to recruit someone who perhaps will feel that that's the right position. It's all about the title and money. It's very different. So in that area. But thank you.
Anyone else?
So this is a voice vote, I think, to approve this.
Yes. No, it's a motion. Do I hear a motion?
Well, we had that.
We had that already?
Yes. I think Ruth made the motion, Alex supported. So then we just discussed it or
Yes,
asked
we
questions.
did. All in favor, said aye.
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 Didn't I? Forgive me. Tab C. Before we vote on the financial reports, we have VP Barnes to give us any extras that we should know about.
Yes, good evening. So just as a reminder, this will be the first time you have seen the fiscal year 24 financial report. So this is through the month of September, so the first quarter of the fiscal year. I'll start with the fall tuition. And again, these numbers are as of the end of September. You can see there that we have a slight favorable variance for the fall semester. I would remind the board that we actually budgeted to be down by 3%. So we're not actually down by 3% at the end of September. We're actually down by 1.5%. So it was down. I would comment that since then, in October, we haven't gotten to those financials yet, but we did end up slightly positive from an enrollment standpoint, but the credit hours remained somewhat negative. In terms of the student fees as well, student fees are up slightly, also in line with the fall tuition being up slightly, again, based on a conservative budget where we were expecting to be down by 3%. In terms of the local property taxes, the variance that you see there in the column called variance, that is simply timing. We actually have gotten a lot more townships and cities giving us or sending us their money via ACH, which gets to us faster. which you'll see later allows us to actually invest the money faster as well. In terms of state appropriations, this favorable amount there you see in the variance column, that should stick. As a reminder, we budgeted for a 2% increase in our state appropriations. We did not know at the time what the increase in state appropriations were going to be. They actually turned out to be 7.1%. So we should see a favorable. The wild card there is something called the LCSA, Local Community Stabilization Authority, which is the personal property tax. That's the wild card we can't predict and can be up or down. So I hate to commit to a number at this point. Still early days, but looking okay. Trade partnerships also did well. These programs have been bigger than we thought they were going to be. We also had the electrical workers, which were completely unexpected, helping our financials there. In terms of investment income, as I mentioned moments ago, the money getting to us faster actually allows us to invest that money faster. Just as a reminder, we collect the vast majority of our property tax toward the beginning of the year, and then we gradually spend that over the 12 months. So to the point we need the money, we go out and we invest that money. So it sits there earning money, and with interest rates where they are at over 5%, it's helping us have a favorable variance to budget. And as a reminder, we budgeted for 3% interest rates, and they're currently over 5%. Finally, in terms of, well, I'll skip the other two unless there are questions, but you can see there that 1.7 million is where we are right now. A lot of that, again, especially when you look at local property taxes, that's timing as of the moment. But again, some of it will be favorable at the end of the year, but a lot of it is still timing. We're still very early in the year. In terms of expenditures, you can see that the expenditures in total, the variance is a favorable $2.1 million. Again, this is early days. I would say that a large portion of that is timing. I would say $700,000 or so in my estimation may stick, but a lot of this at this point in time is timing. In other words, we thought we were going to spend the money in the first quarter, but it turns out we're going to spend the money in the second quarter or later. So that's kind of the update for the financials. I would also like to highlight on the next page on the capital fund, just as a reminder, let me turn the page for you. On the second line there that says general fund unallocated, there's a line there that says $6.919 million. At the end of the last fiscal year, the board approved a transfer of $7 million of undesignated funds to go to the capital fund. So we have touched that money a bit, in particular because the Great Lakes building required, when they did the inspection, they required some changes. The biggest of which was a change in the fire rating of the doors, which caused us to have to spend a little extra money. In other words, go very slightly over the budget. The ML building also is slightly over, but it's just momentary. We had to spend a little extra money. We got billed late for it for some changes to the floor. But we've also since received a rebate from DTE related. There's also some purchase orders that we've closed out without spending. So I think what I'm saying is the ML building, even though it's slightly over right now, at the end of the day, we'll be fine. We'll be under budget. But the Great Lakes building will likely stay slightly over budget because of the fire rating of the doors. But I wanted to show you, I promised the board I would keep you apprised of how that money's used. And that's just, it allows us to be a lot more nimble in terms of getting through these things and letting the board know where we stand. So, any questions?
Absent the recommendation at the Board
Well,
of
well,
Trustees.
I'd move that, should I move that, or do you want to ask? I move that we receive and accept the financial reports for September 2023 for general fund, capital fund, combined schedule of investments, all funds.
Support.
Aye.
Facilities Development Report, VP Beshi.
Good evening. We'll give a quick update on a few highlights within the development report. Under the capital projects, the shipping and receiving building and maintenance garage renovation project, that schedule is wrapping up. By the end of next week, we should have the 100% owner's review package. About 2 weeks to review that, get comments. And the goal is by 1st of December to have 100% drawings ready for RFP and bidding. So the goal is to get that out for bids in early December. Moving down to the deferred maintenance, SRB roof renovation. I had a slide presentation. Here we go. Nope. Not that. There. That's not it. Down at the bottom, facility development update. There it is. There we go. We've been talking about the SRB roof restoration project that wrapped up in September. Photo here is a before. This is what the roof looked like before we started the work. This is a photo of the mechanical fasteners. So what's important about this project or this particular photo is a lot of work went into the preparation of just getting the building metal roof sealed up. And so every fastener was tightened and caulked and all the seams. And then the final photo is after the coating. You can see all those bumps. You can see the magnitude of how many fasteners had to be fastened and caulked and sealed. So proud to, or happy to say that project has been wrapped up. Another project that is wrapping up this month is the Ellsworth, the Harriet Street move to Ellsworth. Few photos just showing the finished product. So the 2 photos there show the reception area and the open office space as you walk into the space. This is a photo of the enclosed office. The space has a total of 4 offices enclosed, a reception area, and then there's 2 classrooms. This is one of the classrooms. Each hold approximately 20 students, and we are bringing that space online this month. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Now we move on to the remarks of members of the board. Anyone like to say a few words? Trustee Hatcher?
I'm kind of struck tonight with a sense of 2 different colleges. And we spent this meeting with positive reports, grants, a new learning management system. We got word of, we're number 1 somewhere. It all looks wonderful. And yet we had faculty come before us today who couldn't stay, who had to walk out because she was so upset about the way things are going. And those are the calls that I'm getting, not just from one person, but from several. And it's like 2 different universes. It's sort of like the country. We've got all the good news in this room, and yet we have a whole bunch of people who aren't getting the good news. And I don't have an answer. I don't have a suggestion. But I think, and there are people who say, well, faculty are always unhappy. They're always complaining about something. Well, they care about how things are going here, and they care about their students. And I would just like to encourage people to somehow to continue to listen to them and to address their concerns, because with all the systems in place, with all this, thank you very much, HR. I love it. I love it. With all these people working here, why are we working here? We're working here so students can be in classes and get an education. And they can't do that without teachers. So I know you think they're important. I know you think they complain all the time, but there's something disparate going on. And our new deans can perhaps help. The sense of lack of leadership, perhaps that's it, but it's a serious concern, and I don't want it to get worse. It has gotten worse in the past. I lived through it in the past, and we don't want that. That's what I was going to say. Sorry.
I second my fellow trustee Hatcher's comments about the faculty. I think they're vital to the institution, and whatever we can do, and it's great to welcome 2 new deans and hopefully filling those positions and getting some progress in leadership there in the instructional end will help address that, I hope. We still have to fill the VPI, the Vice President for Instruction, and I look forward to an active process to get that done as soon as possible. That said, I also want to thank all the people that put on the wonderful Washtenaw Community College Foundation Gala. And I just want to say I had a wonderful time and dancing. People were there dancing up a storm and having a great time. It was wonderful to see the people from Toyota who were there as sponsors and the relationship that they had built or are building with the college and bringing some of our students into working with their advanced manufacturing. And it was wonderful to see them there. And I thought that gala, I know haven't had it for a few years because of the pandemic, but I give a hearty welcome back. And I hope that we continue to have that, and I look forward to dancing in the future at that event.
I just like to say ditto to what my colleague said here about the foundation. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of thoughts about how's this going to work, what's it going to look like. But once I got there and everyone was casual, felt good to be with each other. It was really good to see that. And I danced, David and I danced.
Pictures?
If they did, I don't know. But it was fun. I appreciate all the work. And that was hard work putting that together, but it was great. Very good.
I'm gonna jump on that same bandwagon. I was very, very impressed with the decorations, just how it was all put together nicely. It didn't feel like I was at the college. I felt like I was on an island somewhere, like the Bahamas with the palms. And it was just so well executed from the moment you stepped through that front door. Shayna Barker was right there to greet you. She had her whole staff there to give you whatever it is that you needed. If you wanted to do a silent auction, just get your name badge and whatnot. It was like from point A to point Z. And I say that because that patio was open. And when I saw that, I just lost my mind. And I ran out there. Yes, I danced too. But it was just so well done. And I give total respect to all of the team that put it on and just pour their hearts out to make sure that the guests enjoy themselves. And I did. And I could tell everyone else did too.
I just want to add on to that. Sheena Parker did a wonderful job. I can't say enough about her and her personality and working with the people, the crowd. There's a lot of people there. But I just want to add this on when Angela was dancing. She had on a dress and red suede shoes. And the DJ kept saying, "Look at that girl, one of them in red suede shoes." She was. And yeah, we had dance contests too.
So thank you to the Foundation Board. Anyone else?
Say thank you to the Alumni Association for those mugs that we got last month?
Yes, we did.
Did we say thank you? Okay, good.
You
I
put
love it.
soup in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just thought we ought to say thank
Yeah,
you.
they're huge. I love them.
Well, thank you. I'd like to follow up on the foundation gala. It was outstanding, and I'll tell you, Trustee Milstein, you had me holding my breath for 1 year because he was on the board at the time, and it was he had a I think there were three of you, our idea to change it from November to September. And if you don't think that was frightening, I mean, I sat there quietly because you can't interrupt, they're thinking, you have to try it. And I thought, oh my God, I hope this works. It was brilliant. It did work, and people enjoyed it. And so thank you. Thank you so much. It was, and I'd like to thank everyone who put all their effort into it. And all the donors and people who attended it. They were just so appreciative, and it's so great for our students. And thank you to everyone here who came and supported it as well. This week is really great. We have our third annual Liberal Arts Week, and it's a virtual event that runs all week, and it includes nearly 30 speakers, panel discussions, and other sessions about how people don't realize that even though skilled trades are important, and they are important, some jobs come and go, but English, math, science, history, that doesn't come and go. So when we talk to employers about competencies, the competency, critical thinking, all of that is important. And I think sometimes people forget that liberal arts is, I don't mean anyone here, but, they don't give it enough attention. And so I'm really happy to see that our faculty have focused on talking about skills and competencies and what you learn from a liberal arts education. So I'm grateful for them. And I'd like to thank the LA Innovate Committee for their work in putting it together. And the moderators are Jill Jepson, Hava Levitt Phillips, Bonnie Tu, and our Entrepreneurship Center Manager, Emmanuel Terrell. Yesterday, we had a press conference down at Wayne State University where the Michigan Economic Development Corporation announced the largest investment in state history, which is a combined $3.6 million for semiconductor education. And we were asked to be part of the panel. We were the only community college that was asked to be part of the panel to accept this, and we were recognized for it. And I want to thank Brandon and your team for getting on this and working so diligently towards that semiconductor lab. Economic Club is coming up on November 9th. Our speaker is Cedric Flowers, who is the Vice President of DTE Gas, and H.J. Decker, the Director of Sales and Marketing for DTE Gas, will discuss future energy demands, the role natural gas will play in electrification. So that should be really interesting. And last time we had Sensi there. I just want you to know they did an assessment on our security, and we had flying colors. Flying colors. I mean, and that's with another company. But we always have to be careful. It's like getting in your car and driving. You have to be careful. Just because you got here safely, I hope everyone gets back safely, but you never know. So it was just good to know that we're on top of it. So we also have a video to show you tonight about our partnership with Zoller. And, but before, while you're figuring this out, you know, all your comments about everything you're saying about, you know, the faculty, and I understand the concerns. It's a challenging time. This is not an excuse. Everyone wants something different. People want to work from home. They don't want to work from home. They want to work IT. They don't want to do IT. It's just really very, very different right now. But I will try my best to do what we can. It's just, it's not, I will tell you this, Trustee Hatcher and all the rest of us here, it's not the school I worked in either. Every day is a new challenge, even in my office. It's so different. And what's just so different, not just even the MCCA, their efforts in becoming a state system. Everything is different. And but I understand, and this is not an excuse, and we'll try our best. And I'm looking forward to our new deans. Okay, Anne, we're expecting great things, okay? So, and Tracy, okay, go to, and the rest of the deans as well. So, but thank you.
One
Yes,
question.
sir.
Yes.
So this Liberal Arts Week sounds really interesting.
Mhm.
Are there events that are open to the public, not just students?
It's through Zoom. It's a Zoom week, and
It's only
I
by
don't know.
Zoom?
Is it open to the public? Is it? Yes, it is.
And where would I find the schedule of events? Would that be on our website?
Julie, can you answer that question?
So we'll be on the website, eh, or it is on the website? And pretty much anybody from the public is welcome to see what the schedule is and participate. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. And before we go on to the Zoller, I'm looking at Kwame right now. I said it right. Did I say it right? Oh, gosh. Okay. Kwame is here, and I'm looking at Ted. And this evening, I believe you signed our contract. So we have completed. Could you, the negotiating team members, please stand for our OPT contract? Both sides, it'd be great. Thank you so much. Thank you, and we know and we appreciate everything that the office technical professional staff does for us. And thank you for all of your time, everyone's time in negotiating a contract that we hope, well, of course, we all work together to make it better for everyone. So thank you. Okay, hit it for Zoller.
Welcome to Launch with WCC. Today we are highlighting Washtenaw Community College's commitment to educating and training students for high-demand and high-wage manufacturing jobs, specifically through apprenticeships and earn-while-you-learn programs. In today's world of technological advancements and critical workforce needs in certain sectors, fueling the talent pipeline is a topic of importance from the local levels through the highest halls of government. Skill-based hiring opens the talent pipeline and can also lead to higher retention in the workforce. At Washtenaw Community College, we know that industry partnerships are key to ensuring students are ready for the jobs of today and tomorrow. Excellent academic preparation and hands-on learning with innovative technology can unlock doors to a secure career and fill this workforce gap. A new WCC partnership with Zoller Inc., a German-based precision cutting and software tool management company, includes a paid apprenticeship program and a donation of big equipment worth about $250,000. Students will train on state-of-the-art machinery both on campus, in the college's advanced manufacturing lab, and at Zoller's North American headquarters in Ann Arbor, just 10 miles away. This important partnership is one example of how WCC works with industry leaders to prepare students for highly trained careers.
Hi, I'm Christy King, and welcome to Launch with WCC. Today we are in the Advanced Manufacturing Lab at Washtenaw Community College to highlight a new partnership with Zoller. Zoller is here to train students on state-of-the-art machinery that measures precision cutting tools, like this one. Let's learn more about how WCC works with partners like Zoller to get students ready for highly trained careers.
What is very important for us is for the students that they are educated on the latest technology. And what we donated basically is what you see, basically an entire tool room with our presetting equipment, with our workbenches, with our cabinets and our tool management software. This is to us very important that the students are educated on the latest equipment that is in use at the moment in the companies. We were always looking like for good talent. So then we had a hard time to really finding the workforce. And then we said, well, what can we do? I mean, what difference can we make? And so we came to Washtenaw Community College 10 minutes away. And then we started a partnership. And for us it's important that we have a close relationship and certainly that we also have the investment here in the community. So the partnership is for us very important that we have an opportunity to educate over a period of 2 years that students can be here at the Washtenaw Community College 2 days a week and working 3 days a week at our facility, and that they basically learn what I learned when I was young, when I was an apprentice, that they learn everything from setting up tools, assembling tools, that they know how to run machines effectively, and that they can produce very good high quality parts.
The paid apprenticeship program provides students with benefits, on-the-job training, and sets them up nicely for future opportunities with Zoller as well.
Once they are through the program, that they can be working at our company, they can work, for example, they can start as a service technician. They can go out, they can install our machines, they can do the training for the customers, they can do the maintenance for the customer. And in our company, I mean, since we are family owned, we always want to provide like a good future for our employees. So if they do this for a while, they have opportunity to move also in different departments. We have a sales department, for example, in our facility. We have also a R&D department, so they can go in software development and whatever they want to do, we can provide a very good future to those apprentices.
WCC President Dr. Rose Belanca is appreciative of the partnership and for the opportunity students have to learn in a high-demand industry that requires a highly skilled workforce.
Here is a leader in the manufacturing world and actually took the time to come here from Germany to meet with us. So that in itself was very impressive. I know that he's a leader in the industry, and the fact that they want to work with us and join us in a partnership to build our apprenticeship and manufacturing program is more than I could expect. Extremely fortunate that we have a partner that is willing to work with us, that is willing to open their doors and have our students come in and serve as apprentices. And they're also willing to donate this money so that this equipment, so that we can train our students on site.
President Belanca says it is not so much about a job, it is about the best job for students and their career aspirations. It is about taking students through the education and learning process and immersing them in training on the same type of industrial equipment they will be working on in the field.
That means they have to be competent in that training, but that in itself is a great opportunity for them. So it's training, it's giving students the ability to make a very good wage and to walk in skilled. So, and having the opportunity to work with them right here in Ann Arbor, it's great for our students and great for the businesses that our students will be working in as they move forward, because they're going to be equipped with a skill set not many have experience with. I certainly hope that other manufacturers take a look at this and realize that this is a true partnership, because in this whole process, they're going to find superstars too.
In addition to Zoller, other manufacturers are partnering with Washtenaw Community College to provide students with apprenticeship opportunities to train for high-demand jobs, and they are earning money as they go. WCC is the only college in the state of Michigan participating in the National Work and Learn program called FAME. FAME stands for the Federation of Advanced Manufacturing Education. The program offers Department of Labor registered apprenticeships and educational pathways to an associate degree from WCC, as well as on-the-job training and mentoring through industry partners. According to an American Association of Community Colleges publication, nearly 40% of workers entering new registered apprenticeship programs are going into high-wage jobs that historically required a bachelor's degree. Anchored by Toyota Motor North America, which has brought on 5 WCC student apprentices, other companies partnering with WCC in the FAME program are Orbitform, Lomar Machine and Tool Company, Caster Concepts, and Novi Precision. WCC officially kicked off the new FAME program in style with a recent signing day event with its first cohort of 10 students and industry representatives. These students are enrolled in Washtenaws advanced manufacturing programs, studying disciplines such as mechatronics and robotics.
Absolutely. So FAME, which is a national program founded by Toyota, but now kind of passed off to try to increase its scope. We were the education partner that was selected for this new innovative partnership, which is across the state, that's going to ensure that manufacturers, not just our auto, but across industries, are able to have the talent they need. And it's much like the Zoller model. It's an apprenticeship. They go to class 2 days a week. They work 3 days a week. And in 2.5 years, they graduate and they go right into full-time employment. So Zoller, among others across our region, are really those, I believe, kind of those stepping stones that allow our students to really gain the experience they need to grow.
The college is also finalizing other U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship programs, offering WCC's automotive technology students hands-on training at local dealerships. Stay tuned for more exciting announcements.
We pride ourselves on being the community's college, and that is partnering with community and industry to ensure they have what they need from a talent pipeline perspective. Our division is meeting with companies every day, and we're finding out what are their challenges, both from a recruitment and a retention perspective, to make sure that whether it's training, whether it's upskilling, whether it's ensuring that they have the talent for the future by developing apprenticeship pipelines, or even looking at their internal team, how we can help grow them. We're here, and we have a team of talented faculty and trainers that make it happen.
Jimmy Baber is the Dean of the Advanced Technologies and Public Service Careers programs, under which the Advanced Manufacturing, Transportation Technologies, and many other apprenticeships fall. He says WCC is nimble in its approach and poised to meet ever-changing industry needs. Dean Baber emphasized that experienced instructors play a critical role in a student's education and training.
The biggest thing that we have is we have great faculty. All of our faculty are from industry. They're either 4,000 hours or 2 years, but a lot of them have more experience than that. So they can advise students, they can tell students what they're going to see. So they basically have mentorship also along with getting the curriculum and going through the courses and getting the instruction. We have a degree and certificate, a 2-year associate's degree program here. Basically, what our programs that differ from other programs is that industry drives this area. So with equipment, jobs, requirements, these are all things that we want to prepare students for going forward. Basically, what we want them to do is that they walk into any business after they graduate and say, I touched it, I can troubleshoot it, I can operate it, and they do really, really well.
WCC is home to a diverse student body of all ages, from students fresh out of high school to adult learners who want to hone their skills in their current job or who are perhaps looking to pivot career paths altogether. Washtenaw offers seamless transfers to big 4-year universities for students who want to continue their education towards a bachelor's or master's degree. Starting at WCC gives students exceptional career training, and it does so at the lowest tuition in the state.
The other track is that they can go on, they want to be an engineer, they can go on after they graduate from here and go on to a 4-year college and then pursue a degree in engineering. We have articulation agreements with several colleges. Basically, it's preparing students for what they want to do and for them to be successful.
Thank you to all our industry partners who share WCC's commitment to educating and training a highly skilled workforce to meet talent needs for today and tomorrow. If you are interested in learning more about apprenticeship programs at WCC, contact the Workforce Development Office. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Launch with WCC.
Thank you. Apprenticeships are excellent opportunities for students because they can earn money while they learn, and they really are. So I'd like to thank Dean Baber as well as Vice President Tucker for your work in this area, and I'd also like to thank marketing for everything that they've done to produce this so that we can recruit more companies into this. So thank you. I'm done.
So moving on to tab E, this is an old business, the approval of 2025-2029 WCC Capital Outlay Plan. This is an action item. It's the recommendation that the Washtenaw Community College Board of Trustees approve the 5-year capital outlay plan for fiscal years 2025 through 2021 as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
Support.
Any discussion? Questions? Okay.
I had a question. I'm looking at this and is this the facilities report or capital outlay plan that I'm looking at?
I'm looking at the
Capital outlay plan, are you on section
I'm looking at tab E.
E?
But
Of E.
oh, okay, so it's not the
the
whole.
whole report. I can give it to you,
Oh, no,
but you
that's
requested,
okay.
you said you only wanted the
just
stuff we updated, so.
Oh, that's right. Do you
I got you.
remember? We had the whole report last month. This is just the updated portion. Thank you for reminding us.
Saved a tree.
Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton,
yes.
Trustee Milstein.
Yes.
Okay, tab F is the recommendation that the Washtenaw Community College Board of Trustees approve the fiscal year 23 audit as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, Vanessa, please call a roll.
Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton,
Yes.
Trustee Milstein.
Yes.
So we're moving into new business. The first item for discussion is tab G, the Learning Management System recommendation by VP Barnes.
So Dr. Schuler did a fantastic job going through the background. So I'm just going to focus on the financials, which you see in the lower portion of the recommendation here. You can see here that it's divided into two sections, the WCC portion as well as the UA portion. For WCC, the contract would be just over $1 million over the next 5 years. The first year is a partial year. It's starting in November and extending through June, and the other years are full years after that. For the UA is going to be done in 2 phases. The first portion here is the portion related to the International Training Fund only. So they have approval authority for their courses at the headquarters level. The vast majority of their training is done at the local level. For them to approve that funding, it has to go to each individual local, which there are over 300 of them. So once the UA goes to those 300 locals, we'll come back to you with phase 2, which I would estimate will be roughly in line with the amount you see for WCC, about $1 million. But that would come at a later phase, and we'll come back to the board for that piece of it. For now, you can see here that it's a $1.1 million total. For the UA piece, I neglected to say that that will be billed to the UA. They are paying for their portion of it, so the $100,000 here, and then later phase 2. This is not incremental to our budget. This is going to replace Blackboard. So this was already in previous budgets. It's going to be going forward. The amount is very similar. So I wouldn't see this as incremental to the budget at all. Are there any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
It's up to the board at this. It-
Discuss it, move it forward to another meeting.
I do have a question. So I'm looking through, I've got the point evaluation,
Yes.
but I'm not seeing the actual dollar price.
Right.
And what I'm just seeing is the sense that Anthology got on pricing 5.85 and
Right.
The other one got 5.38. What with the other vendors, what prices did they come in?
Well, so
I'm
the
not
way
seeing that.
so the way we handle RFPs is a little bit different than just buying a widget or a piece of equipment, where we would just go for the best equipment for the lowest price. For an RFP, the way it works is the college sets the criteria for what they want.
Right.
And we go through, and then in this case, they obviously came to the conclusion that Canvas serves the needs of the college. It's then purchasing's job to make sure that that price is under the budget. So what purchasing then does is they go and negotiate a price that is within the college's budget. So it's a little different. Price isn't a determining factor. Provided that it's within the college's budget, it's acceptable. We're trying to get the best product. It's not the same as buying a piece of equipment. But in this case, it's the product that the college wanted, and it's under our budget. So that was the important thing.
But you don't want us to know the pricing on the other ones.
I don't have pricing on the others. We didn't go and negotiate. We just go and negotiate with the winner.
Based on the
But you evaluate, one of the evaluation criteria is price.
Well, there are high level pricing. I don't have that with me. I can get that to you. But I would say it's not a determining factor at all. In other words,
it's the lowest weighted of the various factors.
Correct.
I'd note that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know the price or what they all came in at.
Yes.
And it looks like they came in on a per student basis, or at least the one you're recommending came in on a per user basis.
Yeah, generally they're quoted based on the number of FTEs, full-time equivalent students, correct. And in this case, the bid was based on, I think, 7,600 students, FTEs approximately. So I don't have the numbers, the actual bids for each of the three in front of me, but I'll get that to you.
Did all three of them bid on a per user basis in terms of pricing?
I think so, but I'll confirm.
If I may.
Go ahead.
So, Trustee DeVarty, so the three choices, as we reviewed, this is the choice of the three that the faculty and the students and the staff selected, Canvas. So they did not choose D2L, and they did not choose Blackboard Learning.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that's why we didn't get a bid from those two.
Well, they included a base price, but we didn't negotiate it at all. So I don't.
Because we knew we didn't want it.
Right. We only go
and tell you how much it was.
We only go and negotiate with the product that the college chooses.
So the pricing, so the contract that you're asking us to approve is negotiated.
Correct.
Down, or maybe it's negotiated from the price that they submitted.
Correct.
But it's not exactly what they submitted, but you, based on all the criteria,
correct.
You said these are the people we want to work with, learning
Right.
management system. So you negotiated on price with them
Correct.
and maybe on other aspects as well, like implementation timeline and all of that. I don't know what all you negotiated. And now you're recommending this. I'm good with that.
Yep.
But there's a part of me that likes to know what the difference in pricing.
Yeah, I
And maybe
can.
I'm willing to accept your recommendation. But there's a part of me, you know me because we
Yes.
work every month, and
Yes.
I try to look at the numbers.
Yes.
And I trust the process that you went through, I trust. And clearly the faculty and students prefer this system. I'm willing to pay more for it. It looks to me on the pricing criteria that it came in better than the other ones, in addition to being better on pretty much every other metric that you looked at. So I'm really comfortable with it. So given that, I would like maybe the next finance committee meeting, if you
Mhm.
could, unless other board members want to see this kind of stuff, I would like to see it.
Sure.
But in the meantime, I'm willing to trust the people that have looked at it and support it. I'm curious, is there any sort of timing consideration that we can't just vote on this next month?
I mean, I would defer that to Dr. Schuler.
You could defer it to me if you
Oh,
want.
sure.
You're happy to.
Sorry.
The sooner we get it, the better. So we can
Yeah.
get started.
I think the time, given the fact that the timeline is really important, and we're looking at timeline, pushing this thing and getting all the training and everything we have to do to implement it. I'm going to actually make a motion that we amend the agenda to move this to a vote at tonight's meeting, as opposed to just consideration at tonight's meeting.
One comment. The price that you see here is the price starting on November 15th. So if we start after this meeting, it'll be a minor difference in price. So if we could add, I would say roughly $15,000 to the amounts you see here, that should cover if you approve it right away, and they could get started right away. So there will be that minor difference if you approve it earlier. And just to address your earlier comment as well, the price that you see here is not the price they quoted. We definitely negotiated this way down so that it meets the college's needs.
So you're saying if we approve this tonight, it'll cost us more than if we approve it next month?
Correct, because we get the tool earlier. We get the tool, in other words, they quoted us this price starting November 15th. If we start on October, call it 31st or even November 1st, it'll be 2 weeks earlier. We have to pay for 2 additional weeks.
And there are considerations about the implementation that would cause us to prefer to have it earlier? I mean, is there a benefit to us doing it tonight as opposed to next month, other than it'll cost us more to do it tonight?
That I would probably defer to Heidi Schuler. Thank you.
So I'm comfortable with either option since the next
Speak
board.
as much as you can
Yeah.
in microphone, because
Sure.
I'd like the public to hear this.
Yep, I'm comfortable with either option since the next board meeting is 2 weeks away. But some of the concerns that we have from faculty is about the timeline. They want to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to impact them, and the process. And so the sooner we can get the system and work that timeline out with Canvas, because they give us a project manager and a client success team to make sure that they'll give us all of all that information. So that's the sooner we can move forward with that, provide that information for the faculty, as well as set the system up so that it can be used and people can start learning it. So those are some of the advantages of giving them the access.
I have a question, because this is interesting to me, the $15,000 that we have to pay to start earlier. So if we approve it tonight, we don't have to start earlier. We're just approving it and we'll start on November, because I don't want to spend $15,000 if we don't have to. I mean,
No, we could-
so,
we
I mean,
could-
you know what I'm saying? So if we
Yes.
approve it tonight, we can tell the faculty and staff, because that's what they want to know. We keep saying, well, it depends on the board's vote. So if we approve it tonight, if you choose to do that, we won't implement it until the
We can do
date.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
we
okay.
could approve tonight, but then start on November, and then start on November 15th.
I'm going to make my motion, and then people can discuss it, that we amend our agenda to move this to a item that we vote on tonight. Is there support?
Yeah. Yep. No Schneider.
Discussion on moving it.
Can avoid the 15,000 by postponing they can postpone it.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's not a lot of money.
No.
And I prefer to leave it in the hands of the people administering this, especially given the tension with the faculty about wanting to know what's going on. I would leave it in the hands of the administration to do what they think is best in terms of moving ahead with this now or wait. The 15,000 to me is immaterial. I want them to have the capability to do it as soon as possible and then use their judgment about how soon to move forward. So that's why I made the motion to approve it tonight, or to move this to an action item to vote on tonight. And
Yeah.
I hope everybody supports it.
Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
Marty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton,
Yes.
Trustee Milstein.
Yes. So that amends the agenda. And then I would call the question on the actual question.
Just for my own knowledge, how much are we spending on Blackboard currently, and how different is it from the first year of Canvas?
It's not exactly an apples to apples comparison,
Right.
but just to give you an idea, for this fiscal year, we're spending $280,000.
280?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That answer actually gives me more reason to support this because it's less expensive than Blackboard. So I will enthusiastically vote in favor of this. And so I move this, that we approve the contract to have the learning management system as our new, approve a contract with infrastructure in the amount not to exceed $1,107,904.
Or
Call the roll?
Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
Vardy, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton,
Yes.
Trustee Milstein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tab H is the Facilities Management Work Order Software Recommendation. VP Beshi?
Good evening.
Good evening.
For discussion is the Facility Management Work Order System software. Little background, we currently use a software system called FAMOS, which stands for Facility Asset Management Information Systems. We purchased that software in 2005. We process 10,000 work orders per year to track and record daily work activity in essentially every area of facility management. Our version of FAMOS is no longer sold by Accruent, and our last upgrade was in 2014. FAMOS is 20 years old, nearing its end of its life, and it's very difficult to support. In short, our current software system is obsolete and doesn't work. The evaluation process that we took, we looked at a total of 7 software systems. The committee that evaluated this consisted of all 6 of the managers in facility management, It also included Patrick Downey from the conference and events area, Patrick Bracco from the IT department, AVP Woodstock, as well as myself. The criteria that we looked at to evaluate all 7 work order systems included the scope of the product capabilities, the quality of the training and the customer support we would receive, the ease of use of the software system itself, how intuitive it is, ease of configuration, price, references. We actually contacted colleges and universities that use the software systems and asked how that system is working. And finally, additional modules or add-ons, additional services that we could purchase with that particular software. After a very extensive evaluation process, the committee came back with a software system that we recommend called AssetWorks. We liked a number of things, especially their experience in higher ed and higher education. They have an extensive amount of experience working with college and university facilities. It's a very functional system, smooth workflow, and great technical capabilities. The cost of the system that we're looking at and recommending, so the proposed contract with AssetWorks is just over $294,000 for a 3-year contract. That would include a one-time implementation cost of $131,440 and then 3 annual software renewals of just over $54,000. And funding for this software system is reserved in the college budget. Few benefits with this new system. It's cloud-based, and with that comes a host of benefits. 2 in particular, third-party integration. We would be able to have the ability to integrate with our event management system. And for the heavy users in our department that are assigned a lot of work orders, a mobile app. So we could outfit them with a tablet, and they could actually retrieve work orders through a mobile app and go paperless. Questions?
So I'm looking at the tally sheet, and I see TMA came in essentially at the same, roughly a third of the original cost. And I understand what you're asking for is negotiated down from what the AssetWorks original bid was. But why? I mean, they're so close, and on some things like references, TMA was higher, equal on years in industry. It's like it was so close and the cost difference was so much. I'm just wondering, why are you recommending AssetWorks instead of TMA?
Well, again, the process we look at is we want to get the best product we can get within the budget. AssetWorks was their experience in higher ed, the group that came in and did the on-site demonstration. It was clearly a better system for us. If you look at the tally sheet, besides TMA, there was a few, 2 in particular, that were just very basic work order systems. They didn't really have a module that did much more than fleet inventory, for example, manage a fleet of vehicles.
Right.
But to answer your question, AssetWorks was the system in the end that we preferred over TMA or Z-Link, which was another system that was in consideration.
That doesn't really answer my question, because I'm asking the why you preferred it. You are recommending it, so I know you prefer it, but why? Well, I mean, what's the
I'm sorry.
Was there a better rapport with this AssetWorks over TMA?
I have a question. Are they both cloud-based?
Yes.
Okay. And the committee, they looked at both of these.
We looked at 7, evaluated 7 different systems and rated them. And again, the system that they recommended was AssetWorks. It was within the budget that we have established for this project. And
If I may, I would like to recommend to the board that we revisit this next month. And we can sit down and come back and answer your questions.
I have a question in regards to the numbers. So on the spreadsheet, it shows that the annual cost is $48,550 for AssetWorks, but on our recommendation on the resolution, it's $54,250. Is there a reason for that change between the two documents?
There's a progression each year. So AssetWorks, the annual renewal, the average is 54,250, but it starts at 48 and it progresses up to 57 after year 3. So we went for the presentation showed an average renewal cost.
Got it. Okay. And then just to follow up with regards to Trustee DeVarty's comments, this was TMA's initial pricing. If with negotiations, maybe that could come down quite a bit because whoever negotiated the AssetWorks contract from their initial proposal to what it actually came out did a great job. So maybe that individual could negotiate the TMA. So I think more information will be super helpful for our next meeting.
Sure.
I just have a question about Famous. Do you have access to all that information as an archive?
We do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to tab I, renewal of Oracle support services. Provost Blake.
Good evening.
Oh,
So Oracle is the database that we've been using since 1998. It's the database that basically holds all the data. So when we're using Banner, database that holds all the names and addresses and course information. So since we've been on Banner since 1999, we've been using Oracle. During COVID, Oracle did not kind of give any kind of price increase, and so our contract is ending in the end of November, and they were planning to give us an 8% increase over the next 3 years. Because we negotiated, and I will give kudos to Don Harrison in purchasing, who's an amazing negotiator. He was able to negotiate 844, and so that was a savings of over $14,000 over this 3-year contract. It's not I will say it's not an option not to have Oracle. So it's nice that we negotiated a 3-year contract, but it's not an option not to have.
Since we've been using the system since the late 90s, is there an option could we potentially save money and negotiate a better deal if we did a 5-year or 7-year contract versus just doing a 3-year and renegotiating every 3 years?
Possibly 5. I wouldn't go 7 because at some point we will go to the cloud. And when we go to the cloud, we won't be using Oracle anymore. So that's why we would not do 7.
Okay.
But, probably between 3 and 5 would be the goal, I'm sure. But generally, they're doing 3-year contracts at this point. Because generally they don't generally go more than 3 because it's based on, all of the staff, students. So each year I'm reporting how many staff, how many students, how many faculty are using the system unduplicated. And so that's what the price is based on. I think that's also a concern of going out way far because if we have a big increase or decrease, we don't want to be paying what the level is so if there's any kind of volatility in those numbers.
And I guess follow-up question to that is, why aren't we going to the cloud sooner?
That's a big project. And so certainly it's always a goal, but there's a lot of pieces that have to be in place before we'd be able to go to the cloud because basically you're using the system totally vanilla and we're not quite there yet. We have a few things that we have customized for Washtenaw, but certainly the goal in the long term will be to go to the cloud.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to tab J, hiring and recruitment software recommendation. VP Schwick.
May I start this before he does?
Please.
Thank you, just an intro. As the board knows, one of the goals that I'm working on this year is to take a look at the HR practices and the operation. And this is phase one of this goal in terms of improving our applicant tracking system. So I just want you to know where this is coming from. There is a whole plan, and that's where this is. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Hopefully I'm close enough to this mic. This is the hiring and recruitment software recommendation presentation. I'd like to provide a little background in history. Much like some of the other systems that you've seen presented this evening, we have a relationship with the software provider People Admin. We began that relationship in 2007 when we implemented the applicant tracking system for the first time. I'll describe in a bit what an applicant tracking system is. That system was upgraded in 2013, and we did not implement all of the modules available from People Admin at that time. Now, we have maintained our relationship with People Admin since 2007. We've been paying maintenance fees on an annual basis since that time, and those fees have been paid through the existing IT budget. Now, the action that we're requesting you take this evening is two items. One, extend our existing contract with People Admin for a 5-year period of time to continue to provide system maintenance for us. The other item we're asking for is to pay a one-time implementation fee to implement some additional modules that are available in People Admin. We have them, they're in our system currently, but they need to be implemented. And so the implementations that we're looking for actually involve the workflow of the process of hiring individuals. So we begin at the process, and you can see this on tab J, the document, the digital workflow discussion at the bottom of page 1, which talks about the arrows that you see at the on the document, reading from left to right. The initial phase is the position management phase. That is the phase where we identify the existence of a position, make sure we're not filling a position that we don't have or filling a position that's already filled by someone else, but we're managing the position, making certain that budget is available. This is a part of the system that we do not currently have. This is one of the modules that would be implemented so that we could have a paperless process at the outset of working our way through identifying the position, determining that budget's available, and moving it on to the applicant tracking process. The applicant tracking process is, as the name suggests, the system which tracks the applications that are filed by different candidates who are seeking employment. This system we do have the digital capability for now. We accept job applications online, and we're able to manage the material that comes into us through the recruiting process as in digitally and in a paperless way. Obviously, once we get through in terms of dealing with the candidates, we make a selection. We then have to take that candidate's data and move it into our employee records. That's the third arrow here, moving left to right. This is also a system that we have not implemented, so that we have a paper system in the beginning, a digital system dealing with the applicants, then a paper system and entering them into our employee records, and the digital system with regard to onboarding. So essentially, we are looking for providing position management and employee records and tying this whole process together so that we'll have a paperless process from the recruitment phase through the applications, through the transfer of the data to our employee records, and on to the onboarding process. So what we expect, if we're able to put these systems in place, is to increase our efficiency, to increase our time to fill. Right now, our time to fill it is about 83 days. And the industry benchmark on filling positions is roughly about 50 days. So we are considerably slower than the process, a benchmark really established across a number of industries. We would hope to produce about a 20-day increase in our time to fill metric if we can get all these modules in place. Also, we'd be moving to a paperless system. Much of the paper that is involved in this process would be eliminated. Also, we think we'd improve the efficiency in HR, giving us some time to spend more time on custom recruiting, dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also addressing training of the staff at the departmental level in terms of their utilization of these systems to speed the hiring process at the departmental level. And finally, we'd see an improvement in our data reporting, where we'd be able to string this entire system together. There's internal reporting available with regard to these processes that would become available to us if we can acquire these additional 2 modules. And finally, once we're able to put this entire string of modules together, we'll have a system that can communicate with Banner. Right now, our systems don't have the ability to communicate with Banner directly. And so in order to integrate this data into the overall Banner system that we have, this would allow for a digital transfer of the data all the way from the pre-application process up through the onboarding of the employee and getting them on the payroll. So in terms of the cost summary, you can see at the top of page 2, we described the separate items regarding the request, which is the first request is to approve a 5-year extension of the contract. You can see the costs listed here. It's a total cost over 5 years of $257,036.71. That will continue our maintenance fees that we're paying currently. Those maintenance fees, as I mentioned, have been paid out of the IT budget. They will continue to be paid out of the IT budget going forward. The second item is a one-time cost to implement those 2 modules I discussed for a cost of $23,196. And as I've indicated in the document, after consultation with the finance department, there are sufficient excess funds in the budget of IT and the budget of HR to fund this $23,000 cost without any additional appropriation. So there's adequate funds budgeted with regard to these maintenance fees. There's adequate dollars in the IT and HR budgets to pay for the implementation of the 2 new modules. So it's our recommendation that the board approve 5-year contract extension for the payment of maintenance fees in the amount of $257,036.71 and the one-time payment of an implementation fee of $23,196 for a total amount of $280,232.71. Any questions?
Since you're going to go to Blackboard, the obvious question is, are you prepared to transition to Canvas?
Well, actually, this system would interface with Banner, not with Blackboard.
No, are you from Banner to Canvas? Right? No? This is different? Okay. All right.
Well, Blackboard is the learning management system we currently utilize. Banner is our operating system. Linda was just up speaking about Banner.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Any other questions?
So I like what you're doing, but I'm not familiar with all these processes, although I've been an employer and kept employee records.
On paper?
Yeah. In terms of onboarding, what's involved in that? Does that track training? the things they have to sign, that they read the employee manual, all that kind of thing?
Mostly it's bringing people on and having a benefits discussion, offering them the options with regard to benefit. Normally the salary has been determined and it's part of the offer to them and they accept the offer. But when they come on board, they have a number of options regard to our benefits, retirement benefits, healthcare benefits, and we have to sit down with them and go through that process. And then of course, depending on the position the person's coming into, if their position within the organization is such that they're touching a number of other parts of the organization, then obviously we have to organize them, meeting those folks and moving through and understanding how they're going to be working. But essentially the big part of onboarding from the HR perspective is the benefits piece.
So in terms of getting the sign off on employee manuals and things like that, that's not part of this process?
No, that is not. No, this is basically a matter of which of our health insurance options are they choosing, which of the retirement options are they choosing, and normally people wisely have lots of questions about those.
But we do ask people to sign off on our manual, right? Like sexual harassment and issues like that?
We don't ask them to sign off on a manual. We require them to take essential training, which provides that information. And educates them about the terms of the board's policies. And as a part of that essential training, they're obligated to follow the policies about which they're being trained.
And do we have a way to track whether they've done that?
Yes,
training?
sir, we do.
Yeah, but that's not part of this system.
That is not
That's
part
a
of this
separate
system.
thing.
That is correct.
And then this is far beyond onboarding, but given the fact that we've had turnover in some of the instructional areas like deans and VPI, do we have an institutional way to facilitate trying to get exit interviews and learning things from those exit interviews that we can apply going forward? Do we have any way of doing that?
Yes.
In human resources? We
currently have an exit interview program. However, it is voluntary, and because it's frankly unlawful for us to insist that someone give us an exit interview before we give them their last check. We can't do that. So it is voluntary for people to participate. We do have an online process. We do gather data from there, which we do collect and analyze. And from that, we gain information about why people are leaving or staying, different reasons. But so we do have that practice. Again, it is not tied to this particular system that we're talking about.
Just watching the step-by-step thing made me start thinking about this. In terms of exit interviews, I know we can't require people to do an exit interview. Has there been thought given about recommending, as a personnel matter, maybe to incentivize people doing exit interviews where we could really learn something for the organization?
Do you mean by incentivize a gift card, for example, or something of that nature, or some other?
I'd leave it to you what incentives would work, but I see that as something that would be helpful to us to try to incentivize people to give us information that can improve our processes.
Yes, I can understand how obviously an incentive would assist us in gathering that data. We are looking at retention. Our retention rate now is running about 86%, which is about 4% short of where we'd like it to be. And we are studying that data, but it is kind of anecdotal since you don't collect it from everyone. The actual number of people who reply isn't large enough to be statistically significant. We are looking at those issues, and we are going to be approaching, particularly if we're able to free up some of our staff from the more mundane aspects of this process.
Right.
We do want to look at other retention issues. The president's asked us to look at some programs, some recognition programs and other things that when we do have a recognition program in place currently, but to reevaluate that program to look at in terms of retention. And obviously that data that we get from the exit interview process is a part of that. And the other thing it does is it influences where we are. People make comments about salary, people make comments about benefits, people make accommodations about flexible schedules. There are a whole host of issues that go into that decision to leave us and go somewhere else.
Right.
And so we do look at those different issues, but we really have not had the opportunity to accumulate all that data and really analyze it in a useful way.
Well, thank you very much. I realize some of that's off topic from what this particular matter is, but I think it's very important as looking at this makes me also think about those matters.
Thank you.
Moving on to tab K, revision of the 2023 schedule of board meetings. Tab K is the recommendation that the Washtenaw Community College Board of Trustees revise their 2023 schedule of monthly board meetings and hold their November monthly board meeting on November 9, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the seminar room, ML 101 through 123 at the Morris Lawrence building. Do I hear a motion? So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
I've got a question. When is our December meeting scheduled? You know, offhand? But it is earlier than the usual 4th. So I think
14th.
given that our December meeting is earlier than normal, I have no issues with this. And Thanksgiving at the end of the month, I think it's a smart thing to move this up.
Right. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Yes, I thought so. That's what I was asking.
Excuse me, I'm like,
I made it.
Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
Vardy, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton,
Yes.
Trustee Milstein.
Yes.
I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
thank you.